Hello, everyone. It's Dr. Sasha Johnson here, and I'm super excited because Inside and Out Consulting, we always used to do these webinars, and we love to just kind of provide a psychoeducational forum. And we always try to highlight one of the clinicians that work with us. And so today I'm going to highlight my good friend, Dr. Shawna Barnett. She's going to be focusing on understanding trauma and its impact on your brain. So, how experiences shape thoughts, feelings, and healing. So, I'm really looking forward to hearing about this particular topic. If you guys have any questions, please let us know, send them in the comments. Also, please share. I'm going to go ahead and pass the torch over to Miss Dr. Shauna, who is also, let me lay out her foundation here. She's a professor at multiple universities. She's also a therapist. She's also a coach. She also is a amazing mother and friend. And you guys have to check her out when we finish this presentation. All right. Hey, Dr. Shauna.
Hey, Dr. Johnson. How are you? Thanks
I'm
for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. I'm gonna give you the floor and I'm gonna come down.
All right. All right. Well, I hope everybody's doing well and ready to get started. So, tonight, like Dr. Johnson said, we are talking about understanding trauma and its impact on your brain. Thank you for joining me. We're going to explore this really important topic and talk about how experiences shape thoughts, feelings, and healing. All right. So, first up, so basically here when we hear the word trauma, many people immediately think of catastrophic events like car accidents or natural disasters or everything that just the world is just crumbling in on them, right? So while these certainly are traumatic incidences, trauma can also come from experiences that overwhelm us emotionally. They can be physically or psychologically, right? So this might include like childhood neglect, repeated stress, loss, abuse, or even long term exposure. So, what's essential to understand is that trauma is not just something that happens to us, it's something that continues to live within us because it affects the way our brain and body function. So, today I'm going to walk you through like the main ways trauma reshapes the brain and then talk about how these changes show up in your daily life and the hopeful reality of healing and recovering. So again, when we talk about why it matters, when we talk about trauma, it's important to remember that it doesn't just live in our memories. It's like it lives in the body and in the brain. And that means that trauma isn't only emotional, it shows up in our nervous system, it shows up in our thoughts, and even in our physical health. So it impacts how we think, how we feel, how we connect to others, how we experience the world. But the good news is that because it's the brain's resilience, healing is possible, right? So just as trauma rewires the brain, recovery practices can rewire it in healthier and safer ways. So when we're looking at the body and brain, for example, a person who survived a car accident may know that they're safe while driving again, but their body may tense up. So their heart races or their palms sweat as if the accident were happening all over again. And then when we're looking at impacts and thinking and emotions and relationships, say, for example, someone who grew up in a stressful or unpredictable environment, they may have difficulty concentrating in school or at work. But it's not because they lack intelligence at all. It's because their brain has been conditioned to scan for danger instead of focusing. So they're really hypervigilant, always on 10. When we're looking at relationships and health, trauma survivors might withdraw from relationships or they might struggle with trust. And physically, long term stress increases the risk of issues like heart disease and chronic fatigue. But again, like I said, healing is possible. So on the other side of that, practices like mindfulness or therapy can help your brain calm the alarm system and strengthen rational thinking and reframe those stored memories. So over time, people can rebuild with a sense of safety. So here, let's begin with how the brain responds to trauma. So when trauma occurs, it disrupts the natural stress circuit in the brain. It disrupts the natural flow. So there are three main areas we need to pay attention to. First is the amygdala, that's your brain's alarm system, and it detects danger and it triggers flight, fight, and freeze responses. So trauma makes the amygdala hyperactive, so the alarm goes off even when there's no threat. So example of that is imagine walking into a grocery store and hearing a loud noise. For most people, it's just an accident, like something falling off a shelf. But for someone with trauma, the amygdala may interrupt that or interpret that sound as danger, and suddenly their body is in fight or flight mode. The second one is the hippocampus. That's your memory and context center. So trauma can shrink it or disrupt the hippocampus, making it harder to distinguish between past and present danger. And this is why a trauma survivor might react to a sound, a smell, or a place as if the original event is happening again. So an example of that is this. This is why memories may come back in fragments, like an image or a smell without a clear timeline. So if you smell smoke, that might cause someone to panic, even though there's no fire nearby. Then lastly, the prefrontal cortex. And that's the part of your brain that regulates and plans and reasons. And trauma weakens this control center, making it harder to calm emotions and think logically when triggered. So, for example, of that is when this area is weakened, it's harder to talk ourselves down, right? So, for instance, you might know logically say, I'm safe, but still feel completely overwhelmed because their emotional brain has taken over. So, here we're looking at trauma and how it impacts memory, and it does it in profound ways. So, most memories are stored as part of a story, right? So we can say what happened, when it happened, and how it ended. But trauma, it doesn't work that way. Trauma doesn't store it in the brain like normal memories. Instead of being filed neatly away as a story with a beginning, middle, and end, trauma often gets stored in fragments. And these fragments might show up as body sensations like a racing heart, or emotions like a fear or a shame, or even images without any context. But because the memory isn't fully processed, that past can feel like it's happening right now. And that's why trauma survivors may relive an experience through flashbacks or intrusive thoughts instead of remembering something as it was that's over. So that's why trauma can feel like it's happening in the present moment instead of something that happened in the past. And again, survivors might struggle with flashbacks, they might struggle with nightmares or intrusive memories that feel real and they're immediate and they're intimidating. So, and again, this is not a weakness, it's just how the brain processes overwhelming events. So, trauma in the nervous system. So, beyond the brain structures, trauma reshapes the nervous system. So when trauma occurs, it doesn't just affect the brain, it also impacts the entire nervous system. So the nervous system is designed to help keep us safe through survival instincts. And like I talked about earlier, we often hear fight, flight, or freeze. These are automatic responses when the brain perceives danger. So fight, that means you're gearing up to confront that threat. So, for example, a person with trauma may overreact with anger when criticized, not because they want to, but because their nervous system perceives it as a threat. And then for flight, that means you're escaping or avoiding some type of danger. An example of that is someone might avoid crowded places or stressful conversations and constantly on the move to escape discomfort. And then when you're talking about freeze, that's basically you're shutting down, you're feeling stuck, or you're paralyzed. An example of that is a survivor may feel disconnected, unable to speak or act in stressful situations, like their body has completely shut down. And then also, a fourth one, which I didn't put on here, sometimes people develop a fawn response. And that basically is seeking safety by appeasing or pleasing other people and saying yes when they really want to say no, because their nervous system has learned that staying agreeable keeps them safe. So the challenge here with trauma is that the nervous system can get stuck in these modes even when the danger has passed. So this can lead to anxiety, hypervigilance, or emotional numbness in everyday life. And stress hormones like cortisol flood the system, keeping the body on high alert. So over time, again, anxiety, depression, chronic fatigue, physical health problems like heart disease, and then also you can have a weakened immune system. So again, trauma is not only psychological, it's physiological as well. Long-term impact. So when trauma is unaddressed, it affects ripple out over time. So, and that can be emotionally, it can be mentally, socially, or physically. So, emotionally, survivors may deal with mood swings or fear or shame that seem to come out of nowhere. Cognitively, trauma can make it harder to concentrate, harder to make decisions, and even remember things. And socially, it often affects relationships and the ability to trust, which is a whole other aspect that we can't even don't have time to get into here. Physically, chronic trauma is linked to long-term health problems like heart disease, autoimmune issues, and chronic pain. And that's why trauma isn't just a mental health issue; it's a whole body issue. So it affects everything. So here's the most important part: trauma changes the brain, but healing does also as well, right? Healing changes it too. So neuroplasty, think of neuroplasty like a path in the woods. So trauma can carve a trail of fear and hypervigilance, right? But with practice and healing, new trails of calm and safety can be formed. You have therapies, evidence-based therapies, CBT, EMDR, somatic therapies. Those basically help the brain reprocess traumatic memories so they no longer feel overwhelmed. Somatic therapies help people release trauma that gets stored in the body. Mindfulness and movement, that's just basically a simple grounding technique. And that is to name 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 that you can taste. This helps bring the brain back and the body back to the present. And then safe, supportive relationships. So many survivors say healing began when they found that safe person who listened to them without judgment. So that sense of connection literally kind of like rewires the brain to believe in and trust safety again. And that pretty much is it. So as we close, I want to leave you with this thought. Trauma may shape us, but it does not define us. And what happened to you is not who you are. So the brain is resilient, and with time and support and the right tools, people can move from surviving to thriving. So again, I want to thank you guys for giving me just a few minutes of your time to learn about how trauma affects the brain. And we're going to
Thank you
open
so
for it.
much.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
so much. That was really, really good and quick. I like to get to the point because I think that's what people like too.
Yeah.
But you know what? I just sat here and I just was thinking as I was looking at this. Hi, Chelsea. We got Chelsea back there. I'm gonna pull you on the screen. Watch this. Watch
Work.
this. Hello, Chelsea.
Hey, Chelsea.
Hi. All right, I'm gonna take you down. I know you're at work. But yeah, so Chelsea, you guys have to find her and check her out as well. She's an amazing clinician as well. But I just wanted to say, trauma, people do not realize how important and how pertinent it is to address trauma and hit it head on. It can be one of those things that kind of just keep popping up for years to come. And if you don't deal with it, you think you're sweeping it under the rug, but it's always going to creep back out.
Until you deal
So,
with it.
huh?
Until you deal with it, it's going to continue to come
Absolutely.
back. I talk about that all the
Absolutely.
time.
And I tell people all the time
Mhm.
too, when it comes to trauma, if you use it and embrace it, a lot of times it helps to build you into the space of resilience. It
Yep.
helps you to go forward and build whatever success or whatever it is that you're
Yep.
trying to gain or avoid. Not necessarily avoid, that's not the term I want to use, but battle, whatever it is that you're trying to battle and
Trying to
overcome.
cope with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, again, I just want to thank you so much. We wanted to make sure this was short and sweet, straight to the point, and I thought this is a great topic. And do you have anything else? You guys follow her on TikTok. She's also on Facebook, Instagram, everywhere. Do you have anything else you would like to share? Anything upcoming that you want to share with everybody or anything?
Do
Anything
I
you're
have
working on?
anything upcoming?
Yeah.
No, I don't at the moment. I'm
Okay.
always working on something, but I don't have anything at the moment that I can speak on. I'll keep
Okay.
you posted though.
All right. Okay, guys. Well, again, if you didn't get a chance to check this out from the beginning, you can always replay it. Definitely share, 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 share. If you need counseling services, Inside and Out Consulting, as you see, we have some very, very effective, very smart, very equipped clinicians on our team. So if you are in need, please reach out to us. Other than that, we're going to say good night and have a good evening and good week. It's
Bye.
Monday. Have a
It's
good
Monday, yeah.
one. All right. Bye
Bye.
bye.